Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with episode 1 of Codex Analysis Orks. The Orks 7th Ed Codex, which I've been meaning to get for absolutely ages. I now have a copy and I'm going to go through it. So in this episode I'm going to go through Army Special Rules, Warlord Traits, Relics, and the Psychic Discipline, which I may cover again in the HQ section. And I'm also going to give my first impressions on the Codex. So what's my history with Orks? Because I've played Orks for years. They were my first army, and I got into it in 5th Ed, so I had the old 4th Ed Codex, which was the second Codex I ever analysed on this channel. And I really liked the old Ork Codex. I thought it had some issues. Yeah, it had issues, but it was really kind of fun. And this one, not so much. I don't think I think this Codex is an improvement on the old Ork Codex. Obviously, it's got some new units, some buffs to old units, but some things are not so good. So some new special rules have been added that I don't like, and some old special rules have been tweaked so that I now hate them. A lot of old characters got removed. So, for example, no more Waaagh, no more Zogwart, no more... Actually, they're the only two that got flat out removed. Zagstruck and Snickrot, they got moved around and fiddled with. Gazkul got moved, and a lot of things about the Codex I just don't like. There are some things in this Codex that are good, don't get me wrong, and you'll see them as we go through this series. But some things just annoy me. So let's get started on the special rules, and this is the first place where things start to become a bugbear. So there are a few Ork special rules available. So the first one is, here we go. This one is pretty much in every Orkish unit in the book, apart from Grot, really. If every model in the unit has this rule, the unit can re-roll a single dice when determining its charge. It's pseudo-fleet. That's not bad. I mean, it's okay. It'll do a job for you, but you've still got to get up close first, and that is not always an easy thing for Orks to do. Orks nowadays are a mid-range to short-range shooting army with a good few melee elements, kind of like a worse version of Tyranids, and that's not a good thing. But it's nice to have that there. Mob rule. The old mob rule was brilliant. You substituted the number of models in your squad for your leadership if you so wished, meaning that instead of being a crappy leadership 7 from 11 dudes and above, you were fearless. Fearless. That was so good. And even if you had less than 11 dudes, you only had 8 dudes, it was still an improvement on leadership 7. Not anymore. So if every model in a unit has mob rule and the unit fails a morale check or a pinning check after reroll, so that you don't have to do this then reroll, you roll immediately on this table. So if you roll a 1, it's called Born to Fight. If you're in melee, you treat it as pass the morale check. If you're not in combat, you fail anyway. So you still have to fail the morale check, and you may get a chance to save it, but you have to be in melee first. So on any unit that's not designed for melee, a la Shooter Boys, Looters, Flashgits, general units like that, this is an instant fail. On some units, it's an instant win. But if your 30-man squad has to take a morale check on turn 1 and rolls that, it's gone. No. Not good. And you're still leadership 7, bear that in mind. 2 to 3, breaking heads. If the unit includes 1 or more Ork characters, including independent, it suffers D6, Strength 4, AP nothing hits, and is then treated as if it had passed the morale check. If there are no characters, fail the morale check. Their hits are randomly allocated, but cannot be allocated to Ork characters. Any excess hits are lost. This is okay, because generally you have to have a character in every unit. Generally you'll have a knob in every unit, or you'll have a character in somewhere. Be it a mech, a big mech, a war boss, a pain boy, whatever. You'll probably have a character in. So you'll generally, rolling this, never fail your morale checks. But D6 Strength 4 AP nothing hits actually hurts. I mean, you are toughness 4, but you have a t-shirt. That's a 6+ save, to those who don't speak mini wargaming. So that's basically killing probably D3 guys in most cases. So if you roll a D6, you get 4, 2 wounds probably. You're probably going to fail your saves. That's 2 dudes dead. You've lost. Don't like it. It's okay, and it's probably the best result you could get. But on small squads, it's crippling. A 5-man looter squad that takes that one because it's got a mech and loses 2 dudes, that looter squad is crippled. 4 to 6, Squabble. If the unit has 10 or more models, it suffers D6 Strength 4 AP, nothing hits, and is then treated as if it passed a morale check. Randomly allocated, so it could hit characters. If the unit has fewer than 10 models, it fails. This is okay. I mean, generally, squads are above 10 dudes. But if you're taking extra wounds off of a big squad, that's even less damage that big squad can do. Chopper boys and shooter boys suffer the same problem here. If they lose 2 or 3 dudes, that's either 4 to 6 less shots or 4 to 6 less attacks, or 6 to 9 as it would be, less attacks. And that's just not good. Yes, it does mean that 30-man squads half the time will not run off the board on turn 1. Well, 85% of the time, 84% of the time, you're fine as a big squad because you'll have a character and you have got more than 10 dudes, or 10 or more dudes, should I say. But it's still crippling compared to sub your leadership for the number of models in your squad. If you're above 10, you're fearless. That was amazing, and I wish that rule still existed. But it doesn't, and we have to live with that and move on. Warlord Traits. Number 1, Prophet of the Waaagh. The Warlord gains the Waaagh special rule. The Waaagh special rule is probably explained under War Bosses. So, excuse me one moment while I go and try and find a War Boss. That's Grotz. Zagstruck. Nearly there, actually. Just it's an E codex, so I can't just flick through pages to find things, which is disappointing, I'm afraid. Waaagh. Once per game at the start of any of your turns after the first, a model with this special rule can, if he is your Warlord, call a Waaagh. On the turn he does so, all friendly units made up entirely of models with Here We Go may charge in the assault phase even if they ran. Thank you, they brought Old Fleet back. You have to have a War Boss or someone who gets that Warlord trait, and you have to be the Warlord. So if you have a War Boss and a Big Mech, and the Big Mech's the Wall, and the Big Mech doesn't get that trait, you can't call a Waaagh, which stinks. So it basically says War Bosses must be your Warlord all the time. I can live with that. You get to run and charge, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. I used to love exploiting this rule to go from way, way, way too far out to smack into units. And with Here We Go, I have more chance of making it. So I really like that. I'm glad that rule is back. Thank you, GW, for bringing that rule back. Now, couldn't you have kept Mob Rule the same as well? Maybe? Too much? Never mind. If the Warlord already has the Waaagh special rule, i.e. it's a War Boss, in addition to the usual effects, all friendly models with Here We Go gain Fearless when he calls a Waaagh until the start of their next turn. This makes it exactly like the Waaagh from the old Ork Codex, where you used to gain Fleet, and it makes you like Ghazghkull's Waaagh, where you became Fearless. Now, because Ghazghkull has this Warlord trait and has Waaagh, it basically means he gets his old Prophet of the Waaagh special rule back, hence the name. 2. Bellowing Tyrant. The Warlord and all friendly units with the Orks faction within 12 inches reroll, fail morale, and pinning checks. Please get this Warlord trait. If you can't get Prophet of the Waaagh, get this Warlord trait. Rerolling fail morale checks is so important in this codex now. You don't get many leadership buffs apart from independent characters, because Ork Knobs, from what I remember, are leadership 7. They might be leadership 8 now. I'd have to go and have another look. But rerolling morale checks is so critical because it means you don't have to roll on mob rule. It's so important. I would re-roll in a lot of cases to get this one. But we'll have to check what the other ones do as well. 3. Like a Thunderbolt. The Warlord and all friendly units with the Orks faction within 12 inches of him can re-roll all dice when running or charging. You get Super Here We Go and Fleet. Okay. If you're running a Combat Lord, fine. Combat Lords love this trait. But if you're a big mech, for example, you want to re-roll this one. 4. Brutal but cunning. There's no G in the Ork language. The Warlord can re-roll one fail to hit or to wound roll each turn. If you have a Power Claw, you love this trait. If you have a high weapon skill, you love this trait. On a big mech, again, not so good. But bear in mind, it doesn't just say in melee. So it could apply to your gun. So if you're a shock attack gunner, for example, you can re-roll to wound. Or you can re-roll your scatter dice, which is nice. 5. Cunning but brutal. The Warlord can reroll one failed armor save or invulnerable save each turn. This is nice, but you have to pay for either Mega Armor or Heavy Armor to do it. And because the Cyborg body now does not give out an invuln save, it gives out Feel No Pain, if I remember correctly. I'll just have a double check before I go and make sweeping assumptions. That's the other way, I'm an idiot. Cyborg body, where are you now? Still learning my way around this codex because I'm not used to these upside down weird order. Yeah, it's Feel No Pain 6 up now, Cyborg bodies. And there is the only weapon or piece of equipment that give out an invuln is the custom force field, which is nice, and I'll take it, but I'm basically needing to pay for Mega Armor or Heavy Armor all the time to get something really valuable out of that Warlord trait. If I haven't paid for either of those things, or I'm not got a custom force field mech in my army, I'm re-rolling this trait. 6. Might is right. The Warlord receives +1 strength. If you're running a Power Claw, this sucks. If you're running something that's not a Power Claw, this is pretty good. If you're a mech that runs a Power Claw for some reason, you might want to keep this one as well because you would go to strength 5 and therefore to strength 10, which is good. War bosses with a Power Claw, re-roll this one immediately. Other than that, not so bad. I mean, strength 5 is better than strength 4, and if you've got a big chopper, that means you're hitting at strength 7 rather than strength 6, which means you can actually kill vehicles. Ish. So, decent set of traits. The best one, if you're a war boss, the best ones are Bellowing Tyrant and possibly like a Thunderbolt, as well as maybe Brutal but Cunning. You don't want Might is Right. You may want Prophet of the Waaagh, but it's not as good. And Cunning but Brutal, you need to have actually played around it by buying armor, which you will have probably done anyway. If you're a mech warlord, Prophet of the Waaagh turns you into a war boss, really, really good. Bellowing Tyrant, best trait in the book by my guess. Like a Thunderbolt, not so good because you're probably not going to be getting stuck in. Brutal but Cunning, good. Cunning but Brutal, probably okay because you'll probably have a force field. Might is Right, good if you're planning to go to melee. Anybody else? I don't think you'd want anyone other than a big mech or a war boss being a warlord 90% of the time because they'll get the most out of it to kick the most butt. Would I take this table over the main tables? Probably. Depends on the scenario, but probably. Then it goes through a whole list of weapons, which I will cover as and when they come up. So no need to talk about them right now. There are some new weapons in here, so I'm looking forward to trying them out. Some new pieces of equipment. Unfortunately, no new armors, apart from maybe in the Relics, which is where I'm going. The gifts of Gork and Mork, i.e. your Relics. The Thinking Cap. I'm not from Jamaica, that's how it's actually said. So the wearer of the Thinking Cap generates an additional Warlord trait from the Strategic Traits table in the rulebook. If the additional trait is the same as the first trait, roll again. So if you like playing tactical objective games, or you know you're going to be playing them, this is a really nice piece of war gear. I don't know how good of value it is, because obviously in a lot of games you might not be playing tactical objectives. And if you're not playing them, this is a completely dead trait. So what page are we on? 218. I think the equipment list is right up at the top. They don't put the equipment cost in the same place, just so you know. The equipment list is actually above the list of units, and everything else is at the bottom. So the Thinking Cap actually only costs 10 points. 10 points, it's a throwaway item. You might be able to get away with it. Do I like it that much? No, not really. So what page is that? 6. Sorry, I keep having to jump around. Warboss Gazbag's Blitzbike. This is the nearest thing you're going to get to Waaagh, folks. A model equipped with this bike changes the unit type to bike, obviously. And the model has a 4+ armor save. Fine. When turbo boosting, you can move up to 18 inches instead of 12, and it counts its cover save as being 1 point higher than normal until the start of its next turn. I don't know what the turbo boosting save is, or whether it's jinking, but if you jink, you'll have a 3+ cover save. Good. The Blitzbike is also equipped with Twin Link Custom Daka Blasters, which are 24-inch range, strength 6, AP 3, assault 3. That's really good, especially considering it's twin linked. You can probably afford to jink with this thing because you're always BS2 anyway. This costs, I think it was 35 points, or it could have been 25 points. I will just have to check. 116. No, 35 points, and it says cannot be taken by a model with mega armor because you'd fall off. That's how it works. You can't take a bike alongside mega armor. Sorry, folks. The Lucky Stick, owned by Macquarie the Grot. I love Macquarie the Grot. It's a piece of lore. Basically, it's the luckiest grot in the world. He lived to 9 before he got sat on. He was a banner waver for Gazgul, apparently, which is awesome. There is a mascot. That's really, really cool. The Lucky Stick allows you to get +1 weapon skill onto your Warlord, onto your character, should I say. This is not cumulative with a Waaagh banner, so if you have a Waaagh banner in this, you are not weapon skill 7. Sorry. In addition, you can choose to reroll any failed to hit, to wound, or saves that turn. That's really, really good. You can reroll all to hits, all to wounds, or all saves, if you like. That's amazing. There's a catch. Should 3 or more of the rerolls fail in the same turn, you're dead. You're dead. Oh, dear, oh dear. So, realistically, you have to judge how much you need your rerolls. So, if you want to reroll to hit with your gun, you can. But if you fail, there's a problem. And you really want to save these probably for your to wound rolls with a power claw, or anything that's wounding on 2s, and your armor saves if you have mega armor / a bike, or heavy armor. That's the best time to have them, because you can't afford to fail too many. Fail 3, you're dead. You're straight up dead. It's a really cool piece of gear. I think it's one of the coolest things that GW's put in, and it really adds to the flavour of your Ork army. It's how daring do you want to be? For me, too much of a risk to overdo it, but you could. And that will set you back 25 points. That's not bad. I mean, weapon skill 6 means you're more likely to be hitting on 3s most of the time anyway. So I'll take it. I'll take it as what it is, which is a piece of fun, which is what Orks are all about. Fun. Head Whoppers Kill Chopper. Try saying that one fast. Head Whoppers Kill Chopper. That sounds dead cool. Anyway, it's +2 strength AB 5, which is nice. It's a melee weapon, of course. Rending. Two-handed with decapitating strike. So any to wound roll of a 6 made with this kill chopper has instant death. It also has rending, so it's AP 2. Oh, this thing is going to be really, really nasty. But you have to be careful, because at most of the time it's just a crappy big chopper that you've paid over the odds for. Because a big chopper now I think has an AP value of 5. It could be 6, I think it's 5. I'll check that when we get to the equipment list in later episodes. But decapitating strike and rending, if you get a 6 to wound in a challenge, you've just won the challenge. Straight up. And that's not bad. Is it worth it? Well, it'll set you back 20 points. And a big chopper will set you back 5 points. Is it worth 15 points for an occasional chopping a random dude's head off? Probably. Just. I think you can get away with doing it if you've got some spare points. But if you are tossing up whether to get it or not, you're probably better spending 5 points more on a power claw in most cases, because it's always AP2. It just has to deal with unwieldy. The Fixer Uppers. In each of your shooting phases, instead of firing a weapon, you can choose to repair a single friendly vehicle you are in base contact with or embarked on. To repair a vehicle, roll a d6. If the result is a 3-up, you may restore a lost hull point or repair a weapon destroyed or an immobilized. This is effective immediately, meaning you can shoot with the weapon you just fixed. Now, I don't know why you take this unless it's available to war bosses. Is it available to war bosses? No, it's only available to mechs and big mechs. So I'm assuming it's just a buff to mechs tools. Because why would you take it? I mean, mechs tools is a 5-up. It's exactly the same as mechs tools, but it's a 5-up instead of a 3-up. Or it's a 3-up instead of a 5-up. And it will cost you... How much will it cost you? Oh, shoot. 15 points. 15 points to buff your repair rolls to a 3-up. You really need to be content with not shooting if you want to buy this relic. And to be fair, if you're just putting on a standard big mech, or just a standard mech even, because it doesn't have to be a big mech, you could get away with doing it. You just can't do it on big mechs with guns. If you're running a force field and you're embarked in a vehicle, maybe. But I'm not sold, I'm afraid. The Dead Shiny Shooter. This is 5 points. It's a 5-point relic. And it's 18-inch range, strength 4, AP 6. So it's a shooter. With twin linked. Assault 6. 6 shots on a 5-point gun. Now, there's a catch. Roll a d6 each time the Dead Shiny Shooter shoots and fails to hit after re-rolls. So, you roll a hit and you roll again because you're twin linked. Then take all your misses and roll a d6. For each roll of a 1, a friendly unit within 6 inches chosen by your opponent suffers a single strength 4 AP 6 hit as if it were just shot. The wielder and his unit cannot be chosen, mercifully. This is really kind of fun and it fits Orks perfectly. Daka all over the place, but you occasionally shoot your own dudes. I can live with that. 5 points to do that, to triple the shooting output of my war boss and get twin linked. Fine. Fine, I'll do it. I'll take that for 5 points. If I've got 5 points going spare, I'll buy that, assuming I bought everything else I need. And that's really, really cool. So, as far as relics go, I think this is one of the most fun and useful set of relics. So the thinking cap, if you know you're going to be playing attack objectives, well worth picking up. Dead cheap. The blitz bike, if you're like me, I'm using the blitz bike because I love Waaagh and it's AP 3. Bear that in mind. The lucky stick. I want to say you should be running it, and I think you probably should, because Mega Armor, Power Claw, lots of 2+, you can reroll them, it's fine. But if you're not running Mega Armor and or a Power Claw, don't run it, because it's too risky. Head Whoppers, Kill Chopper. I'd rather take a Power Claw. To Fixer Uppers, if I've got a spare mech and a spare 15 points, why not? Who's in a vehicle. Not next to, because he'll get shot in it. And the Dead Shiny Shooter, instant pickup, because it's hilarious, and that's what Orks should be. Because that's my whole opinion of Orks. They are there for comedic value and the occasional butt kicking. That's what they're there to do, and I think that's the best use of them. Is there anything else I want to cover? Yeah, I want to go over the Psychic Discipline. Actually, no I won't. I'll save that for episode 3, which will be the HQs. Actually, episode 2. I'm doing all the HQs in one video, because there's not many unique HQs anymore, which kind of stinks. The last thing is the Ork Horde Detachment. And this is not a Decurion, don't worry, it's not like Necrons. They must have Ork faction, or no faction, obviously. And the boss of the Waaagh, if you use it as your primary, your Warlord can reroll if he's using the Ork table. Bear that in mind, it's not just reroll your Warlord trait, you must roll on the Ork table to get that reroll. But I can live with that, I'd be doing that anyway. The Greenskin Hordes, every unit with 10 or more models in this detachment gains Hammer of Wrath if its charge is 10 or more, before modifiers. So that's before terrain. So if you roll a 10 and you move 8 because of the terrain, you still count as getting Hammer of Wrath. It does not need to move the full distance rolled, and it does not matter if the unit's size is reduced during the charge as a result of Overwatch or dangerous terrain, as long as it still successfully makes it. That's really, really good. That's a nice bonus to get basically double the amount of attacks, or 1.5 times more attacks than you would have had. And that's really good. I like that. It's a nice bonus. And it's got a different force org. So compulsory 1 HQ, 3 troops. You need a 3rd troop choice. But you then have optionally 2 more HQs, giving you 3 HQs, 6 troops, meaning you can have a total of 9 troops, 3 elites, 3 fast attack, 3 heavy support, 1 Lord of War, 1 formation. Fortification, sorry. And of course, formations don't come under this detachment, they're a separate thing. And I'll cover that in the last episode. And it's a nice thing to have, giving yourself an absolute butt ton of stuff. But actually, there's no reason not to take this. Other than objective secured, there's no reason not to take this. Because you get all the units you would take anyway, and then you have basically 1 more HQ and 3 more troop slots free. That's great. I'm happy with that. And it forces you to do it. This codex kind of forces you into doing that. For the simple reason of you need a pain boy, a war boss, and probably a big mech as well, before you even get to characters. So you need those 3 HQs, or you need to take 2 detachments. It's simple as that. So I recommend the Horde Detachment, probably because you need it more than anything else. And I recommend all the relics, mostly. The Warlord Traits are really good, and the special rules, apart from the absolutely crippling mod rule, it's crippling at times, I like the Ork special rules as well. So that is part 1 of Codex Analysis Orks. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, and I will try and do episode 2, which will be HQs, as soon as humanly possible. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and I will see you again.